Funding for Shaperillis is provided by Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Woo! Okay, I'm finally well rested enough, and Patrick is probably done cleaning up the entire world by now. Time for us to review Season 1 of The Clone Wars. Right after I review these 3 TV shows that are on Disney Plus that I watched. But one of them is technically Clone Wars related, so, you know, close enough. Before we get to that though, just for completely arbitrary reasons, I'll start off by talking about Monsters at Work. So this is a sequel TV series to Monsters Inc. And while I didn't really feel like checking it out at first, I ended up doing so for 2 reasons. First, because Disney television animation has been on a roll lately with stuff like Owl House and Amphibia, so I was hoping this show would follow suit. And second, the fact that they actually got Billy Crystal and John Goodman to reprise their roles as Mike and Sully, among other returning voice actors, was honestly really impressive, and lent a ton more credibility to this project. Monsters Inc. is one of my top 5 favorite Pixar movies, and I certainly would not be opposed to a really fun TV show that showed off more of its characters and world. So to answer the burning question at the heart of 1/3 of this video, is Monsters at Work good or nah? I'm kinda leaning towards nah. Don't get me wrong, this show isn't bad, it has some good elements here and there, but for the most part, yeah, this is pretty in line with what you'd expect out of a direct-to-TV adaptation of a popular animated movie. It's perfectly serviceable if you just want to see more of your favorite characters, but it doesn't really give you anything you can't already get from Monsters Inc. or even University. Let me start off with the good stuff. Mike and Sully are still pretty great. They're the same as they've ever been. It's fun to see them interact and adjust to being the CEOs of the whole company now. Mike is kind of really irresponsible and bad at his job, but I think that's in character for him, so it works. There's definitely a lot more of him than there is of Sully in this show. I guess Billy Crystal is just more available than John Goodman, I don't know. But yeah, they're fun to watch, as is basically every returning character from Monsters Inc. Those 2 incompetent janitors are pretty funny. It's nice to see Celia again. They introduced Roz's identical twin sister just so they could have the character in the show without having the actual Roz, since she was revealed to be part of the CDA. I think that's pretty clever. There's a whole episode with the Abominable Snowman that I really like, since not only is it great to see him again, but it actually cleverly ties into both the plot of the original film and his cameo in Monsters University, which was cool to see. In general, the show has a ton of reverence for both of the Monsters movies and makes some clever little references to them here and there, which as a Monsters Inc. stan, I really appreciate. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this show is pretty good when it gives you more of what was good about Monsters Inc. That being these characters and the cool monster world they inhabit. Where the show kind of fails is with the main characters it actually focuses on. Now, I'm totally okay with Mike and Sully not being the main characters of this show and just kind of having secondary roles, since we already got them for 2 movies and they don't really need to be the focus of this whole show. The problem is the fact that the characters that are focused on just aren't very good. They reminded me a lot of the side characters in Monsters University. They're just mainly forgettable and not unlikable, with one exception, but they're not particularly strong either. Our main character is Tyler, who's a purple guy who thought he was going to be a scarer at Monsters Inc., but then they switched to laughs, so he's stuck working on the maintenance team for the time being. And oh boy, the maintenance team is a bunch of goofy, eccentric people who he really doesn't want to be around that much, but he learns to appreciate them over time. It's generic. This whole premise is extremely generic. Most of the dialogue in this show boils down to one of the characters saying something like, "Hey Tyler, it's time for the bazinganine," and then Tyler just says, no bazinganine, thank you. And then that's just kind of the whole show. The characters all have these very repetitive quirks that get pretty old, like the guy who's in charge is always just very jovial and huggy, and he doesn't really have much going on outside of that. The one crab lady always talks about how everyone who used to work in this department died a horrible, tragic death, which is funny a few times, but then becomes incredibly predictable. They don't really ramp up the absurdity with her jokes, so it gets kinda stale. This one girl is extremely bubbly and positive, and she thinks her and Tyler are best friends because they sat in the same class one time. She literally never shuts up about it, but fortunately the writers realized it was too annoying, so they made her stop a few episodes in by resolving it with this kinda sweet, but kinda generic emotional moment between the 2 of them. And even after that's done with, she's still not particularly memorable or entertaining. And then there's Duncan. Oh, sweet, sweet Duncan. This is one of the most annoying characters I've seen in the show in quite some time. He only exists to be an arrogant asshole who keeps berating Tyler over every mistake because he's paranoid Tyler's gonna steal his future job. Whatever, man, no one likes you, shut the fuck up. After they fixed the biggest problem I had with the happy lady early on in the series, I thought, oh, maybe Duncan will get an episode like that and bond with Tyler and get over his initial arrogant asshole persona. And that seems to be the case in episode 5. They ended up getting along after they both screwed something up and fixed it by working together. Alright, they took their sweet time, but at least they fixed this character, right? But then, in episode 6, he's just back to being a huge asshole again. What was the point of the last episode then? Did they play the episodes out of order? Whatever, I guess he just learned nothing and he's completely insufferable. He can't come up with a better insult other than college boy, and he repeats this ad nauseum and it makes me want to die. This character single-handedly lowered my score for the series by 1 point, but I'm getting ahead of myself. At the end of the day, Monsters at Work is breezy and mildly charming, but its only real good attributes come from its connections to the original film. If you're a diehard fan of that movie, you'll at least get something out of this, but it really doesn't hold up that well on its own merits. Kinda like Monsters University. But even that movie had a really strong emotional center and message to it all. I just can't get into this show, unfortunately. And again, it's not bad. The animation is mostly solid for a TV show, aside from a couple weirdly animated shots here and there. Sometimes it does cool things to expand the monster world, like showing us this ball game, or introducing Mike's longtime rival, who's just him but blue. Character design is my passion. But yeah, it's not my thing. And I know I'm reviewing it before the season is over. There's still like 2 or 3 more episodes to go, but I don't think I need to watch those episodes to know that it's not my thing. My score probably isn't gonna change. So 5 out of 10. Could use some work. Wow, I just noticed when I was recording that I made a pun there. It's like Monsters at Work. Could use some work. I didn't even notice when I wrote that line. Wow, incredible. Okay, Bad Batch time. Actually, before we get to that, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Squarespace. What? Oh, I'm sorry, are you not impressed with my transition this time because I didn't link it to the topic of the video? You try coming up with 24 different unique sponsorship transitions. It was either let's hear a word from our sponsor, or Guy in a coma has visions of all the different websites he could be making with Squarespace if he wasn't in a coma right now. Anyway, yes, Squarespace is pretty cool. Let's talk about them now. Squarespace is a fantastic, intuitive online website builder that allows you to create beautiful websites for your business or personal hobby. Present your work using Squarespace's professional portfolio designs. Display projects in customizable galleries and add password-protected pages to share private work with clients. You can even present your videos from YouTube, Vimeo, and Animoto on your Squarespace site. Add an image overlay to your video to improve your website's load speed by waiting to embed video players until playback starts. Every design automatically includes a unique mobile experience that matches the overall style of your website, so your content will look great on every device, every time. And if you don't want that, you can always disable the mobile view from Website Manager. Buying a domain from Squarespace is simple because there are no hidden fees or price hikes. Each domain comes with an ad-free parking page and free WHOIS privacy on eligible domains. Squarespace sells over 200 top-level domains, so you can find the perfect name for your website. Choose a URL that ends in .com, .net, .org, or if you're feeling funky, you can get a more specific one like .art. If you're ready to share your passions or promote your business with the rest of the world, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/ShapeForLess to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Alright, so The Bad Batch is the latest Star Wars TV show. It's a spin-off sequel series to the Clone Wars, following the titular Bad Batch that was introduced in Season 7. Wow, I guess now we know the reason why that arc was revived out of all the dropped arcs. Huh. I was looking forward to this show because being the super mega infinity ultra Clone Wars stan that I am, I was totally on board for a show that followed it up while also staying true to its tone and animation style. And it definitely lived up to those expectations. It really does feel like Clone Wars just kept on going, just with the distinction that it's focusing on a small handful of characters this time, instead of being an anthology show. And the animation, hot damn, this show looks amazing. It really does feel like a natural evolution of the Clone Wars art style. The textures, the environments, the way the visuals contribute to the atmosphere, it's just fantastic. There's this one planet they go to in one of the last episodes that straight up just looks live action. It's insane the level of detail they're able to achieve for a TV show. I guess Disney just saw how successful season 7 of Clone Wars was and said, okay, let's just give Dave all the money for this show. Another super cool aspect of the show is where it takes place in the timeline. We've never really seen the immediate aftermath of Revenge of the Sith portrayed in any major Star Wars media. And we've especially never really witnessed the Empire phasing out clone troopers in favor of the cheaper, off-brand stormtroopers. Getting to see the Empire transitioning from the Republic is just so fascinating. And it's cool to catch up with a ton of different Clone Wars and even some Rebels characters and see what they're up to during this pivotal period in galactic history. This show completely justifies its existence thanks to its additions to the lore of Star Wars. Tuning in every week to get a lore dump about a specific aspect of the galaxy during these first few months of the Empire was a delight. It's what I looked forward to the most with this show. So yeah, this sounds like a banger of a show on par with Clone Wars, right? I'm kinda leaning towards nah.
You what?
Remember how I said the lore was the most exciting aspect of this show? That's cause the story and characters weren't really doing it for me. I liked the Bad Batch fine in season 7, but I wasn't really interested in following them in particular for an entire series, and watching the show kinda confirmed my disinterest. They're okay characters, but they never really grow or develop beyond their typical archetypes. Hunter is the generic good guy leader, but I feel like he doesn't really have anything to differentiate himself from any other clone in the series, whether that be personality-wise or ability-wise. He never really uses his strong tracking abilities at any point in this show, nor does he really have much of a unique character. Tech never does anything outside of his designated role in the group as the smart guy. He's a very static character in terms of actual growth. Echo gets shafted really hard, which is super disappointing because I've been following his fight since I was 10 years old. He's been here since the beginning of Clone Wars, but he doesn't really do much in this show. He has one speech in the third to last episode about not leaving any clones behind since he wasn't left behind by the Bad Batch in season 7, and I like that because it suited his character, and it's the only time he ever got to stand out this entire season. Why didn't he interact with Rex more? I don't get it. These two are brothers who have been through so much together, but in the episode where Rex shows up, he's mostly just talking to Hunter or the group as a whole. What the Wrecker was kind of annoying in season 7, and he was a little annoying in the first few episodes here, but I liked him better as the season went on. Omega is the newest surprise addition we didn't really know about going into this show, and while I like her and she has a tangible growth over the course of the season, the entire concept of her character just feels like a rehash of Baby Yoda. Like, we're really doing the whole, oh, this is a badass show about a badass doing badass things, but also, surprise, there's a little innocent person they really need to protect because everyone wants to capture them. It worked for Mandalorian, but it just kind of felt a little tedious and rehashy here. Crosshair is by far the best character in the show, and it was a really nice surprise to see him become a villain opposing the rest of the team. It makes perfect sense based on his cold demeanor. I just really wish he was more of an active threat to the Bad Batch throughout the season. Like, he requests permission to hunt them down at the end of episode 12 out of 16. That's way too late. He should have been on their asses constantly from day one, appearing in at least every 2 or 3 episodes and trying to capture them. The first episode really built up the expectation that he'd be a more active threat in the show. And while he is very threatening and intimidating, he just barely ever interacts with them, which is incredibly disappointing. And also, I know I said the cameos from Clone Wars and Rebels characters were cool, but eventually it started to get really gratuitous and excessive. Do we really need an entire episode dedicated to a young Hera where the Bad Batch only appears for 5 minutes to drop off supplies? What was that about? It really feels like the show is more interested in bringing back legacy characters for cameos than it is in creating compelling new ones. Like, the biggest new character outside of Omega is probably Sid, but does anyone like Sid? All she does is spout really lame nicknames for everyone, and her voice sounds like that parody version of Mike Wazowski from the Joe animations. Overall, this is a show that just keeps setting potentially cool things up, but never lives up to the expectations it sets. It kinda peaked with the first episode, which opens with a banger Order 66 sequence, showcases the Bad Batch really questioning their morality, establishes Crosshair really well as a villain, but also a victim of the Empire's programming, and also features this training montage where we get to see see the core appeal of the Bad Batch as a group. The way that their enhancements make them capable of overcoming insurmountable odds and pulling off crazy feats that normal soldiers could never do. There's so much cool stuff in this first episode that hardly ever gets capitalized on in the rest of the season. There's also a subplot where Wrecker's inhibitor chip is starting to activate, and there's a lot of tension, but then all that gets resolved in one episode and they never have to worry about it again. I don't know, I felt like something that had that much build-up maybe should have had a more significant payoff. Oh well. My other favorite episodes are probably 8 and 9, a two-parter that finally has Crosshair reunite with the Bad Batch, which naturally leads to a lot of tension and suspense. Only for the first episode to end with the return of motherfucking Cad Bane, who kidnaps Omega after shooting Hunter point blank. And the next episode is a game of cat and mouse, or rather cat and cat, I guess, and Omega's the mouse. Sure. Between Cad Bane and Fennec from The Mandalorian. I know I said the cameos were excessive, but I'll make an exception for Cad goddamn Bane. If you need a bounty hunter to go after Omega, why not use him? It's been so long. So yeah, those episodes were wild, but after Omega's rescued, neither of these bounty hunters show up in the season again, and we're just back to the usual decent adventures with decent characters who aren't really that much more. Oh, also, I like episodes 14 and 15 a lot. They were pretty good as well. The New Hope homage was cute, and the destruction of Kamino is very climactic. The season finale, however, was just kind of any old episode. It wasn't really that compelling outside of the Crosshair and Omega interactions. So yeah, I don't know. This show's kind of a mixed bag so far. I definitely got a lot out of it as a huge Star Wars fan, but if you're more of a casual fan, it's not really that great, and I'd recommend checking out The Mandalorian or The Clone Wars if you haven't already. Speaking of Clone Wars, holy shit, that opening of the first Bad Batch episode really makes me want an animated version of Revenge of the Sith done by the Clone Wars team more than ever. Anyway, yeah, okay show, didn't love it, didn't dislike it, it's fine. Every single episode was at least better than the Martez sisters arc in Clone Wars, even the episode in this show where they did show up, go figure. 6 out of 10, let's talk about the masterpiece now. Now, I really wasn't going to talk about this show yet, since I wanted to wait until the new season is officially over to review it as a whole. And even then, I kind of want to keep this short. But holy shit, you guys. I cannot get over how amazing Season 2 of The Owl House is.
Did someone say Owl House?
Oh my god, it's Patrick. So you're done cleaning up the entire world?
Oh god, no. I just sent most of the rubble through an interdimensional portal.
Good enough. Anyway, yeah, Owl House Season 2 is the stuff dreams are made of. I know I said the thing about Season 1 I really loved was the focus on the characters and just seeing them vibe in this world, but I'm gonna be honest, this show is doing such a great job of being lore and story driven that I don't even mind the shift in focus. Any issues I had with the writing in the Season 1 finale just seem to have completely evaporated. This show is so tightly written now, to the point where it feels like we've got an entire season's worth of reveals, story development, and character development in just the first half of the season. There is absolutely no filler to be found, and it's a miracle.
The plot is always in motion towards Luz finding a way home and Belos finding a way to make the human world his new home. But it doesn't feel bloated or rushed because each episode focuses on different characters' developments and struggles. Unlike in Season 1 where the story didn't really matter, this season just feels like it's constantly building, even with plot points that didn't previously connect to the main plot. Now, all plot lines are suddenly integral, like Luz and Amity's relationship!
By the way, spoilers for all of Season 2 of Owl House. Don't watch this if you haven't seen it. Watch that instead. 3, 2, 1, Palisman. Oh, I get it, because it's like Talisman, but they're your pal. Oh, I just got that. Anyway, Luz and Amity are gay. I didn't think the writers would actually be able to make it an official relationship until the finale, but they really just went ahead and did that. I got so giddy seeing these little blushes in episode 2, that little kiss in episode 5, and then the Hootie episode. Holy shit, we will get to that.
The two of them are so cute together, and they deserve all the happiness. Kinda suspect that when their relationship became official, Season 3 suddenly had to get shortened to 3 episodes. I wonder why that needed to be done, Disney. I wonder what the problem is, Disney. I wonder if there even is a problem and the problem isn't just you, Disney. Regardless, this is a major stepping stone for the LGBTQ community, and let it go down in history that homophobia was solved by Funny Owltube.
Obviously, Lumity is the aspect of the show that gets the most attention, but there's lots of other great stuff to talk about as well. I like Lilith now. Her friendship with Hootie is very wholesome, and it really feels like she's starting to get retribution and feel remorse for what she did to Ida. There's a lot of intriguing mystery surrounding King, and I'm kind of emotionally invested in his struggle in a way that I didn't think I would be for what was otherwise just kind of a funny haha Bill Cipher character in season 1. They're really pushing Ida's story arc forward, and watching her come to terms with her curse is great and emotionally investing. Willow is barely focused on this season, which I love because she's so boring.
Well, I mean, just because she's the least interesting character in the main cast doesn't mean she's a bad one.
Keep telling yourself that.
I have to agree about everyone else, though. If Ida can hold no animosity towards Lilith, then I suppose I can too. I don't have any personal experience with King's struggle of having a dad who left to go get milk, but it's still very well done and emotional. And Ida. Holy Titan Ida. She previously was not one of my favorites, but in this season, she's only behind Amity and Mr. Owl in terms of my favorite characters. I love seeing more about her past with her parents and relationship with Rain. Her struggle to become a protective mother for losing King, even without her powers, is very compelling. And Ida having a parent who hasn't accepted a part of her that she herself has accepted will always be a part of her is something I've never seen done in a cartoon aimed at children before.
I also really like how this season introduces new characters that all feel at home within the story and world of the show. Like, Rain and Ida's relationship is so interesting, and it's neat that Rain is just casually a non-binary character. I wish more shows would just casually add non-binary characters. It doesn't seem particularly difficult, and the backlash from stupid people and network executives doesn't seem nearly as harsh as it is for something like a gay couple. I also think Hunter's a great addition to the show, and he's more compelling than Lilith ever was in terms of filling the role of an antagonist with a bit of a chip on their shoulder.
Hunter serves as a dark foil to Luz and a worst case scenario version of Amity at the same time. If you really think about it, Amity disobeying her mom might have been difficult for her, but considering that she was basically 100% evil all the time, Amity was bound to get fed up with her shit. Hunter, however, has a much more controlling, abusive parental figure with Velos, who is very strict and threatening, but he knows when to dial it back, making Velos a much more intimidating villain than if he were just sinister all the time. You're hardly ever scared of what Velos is gonna do with the main characters because he doesn't really care about what they do. We're scared of Velos because we're fearful of what he's going to do with Hunter. I just want to see this sad bad boy be happy.
There's a lot of other new characters that I'm sure the show will develop further in the second half of the season, so I'm looking forward to that. And again, I can't stress enough how wonderful it is that every single episode so far is plot or character relevant. You're always getting something important by tuning in every week, even if you wouldn't expect to based on the episode description. Even if everyone went in expecting a filler episode and came out more satiated than they've ever been in their lives. Oh yeah. We're talking about knock knock knocking on Hootie's door now. You all know that Hootie is my favorite character in the show. It's not even a contest. And so I was already looking forward to this Hootie-centric episode so much. Way more so than the average Owl House fan, since I saw a ton of people saying, oh, it's probably just gonna be a lighthearted filler episode about Hootie. You dumb fucking cretins. You fucking fools. Absolute fucking buffoons. You bumbling idiots. Fuck you.
This episode is all about Hootie solving the main problems of the main cast, and as a result, becomes a King episode, an Ida episode, and a Lumity episode all crammed into one because of the consistent through line being Hootzifer. We learn about the classification of demons on the Boiling Isles, the fact that King is probably not one of those kinds of demons, and that his species probably existed before the death of the Titan. King has magic screeching powers. Ida doesn't want to see her dad because the last time they presumably interacted, she clawed his eye out. Ida and Rain were an official thing. The Owl Beast curse used to be a regular Owl Beast before it was cursed to become a curse. Ida and the Owl Beast form a truce and create Harpy Ida. Luz thinks Amity is a goddess, ergo proving that she loves Amity just as much as Amity loves her. Hootie kidnaps a 14-year-old girl and locks her in his basement. Amity is the gladdest girl in the world because she's never felt this appreciated by someone before. Luz is the maddest girl in the world because of Hootie's shipping chicanery. Amity is the saddest girl in the world because of the wacky misunderstandings. Hootie is the saddest boy in the world because of the wacky misunderstandings. King and Ida use their new powers and advice to save Luz and Amity's relationship. Lumity is canon. Luz and Amity finally figure out how to get started on the portal. King's presumed father shows up. And all of this was the result of one kitten turned bird worm house demon owl tube thing being the most supportive friend anyone could ever ask for. Who cares that he ate the letter? In the end, are you really gonna hold that against him after everything else he gave you?
During one of Ida's flashbacks, I turned to Patrick and said, "Is this the best episode of the entire show? Because it might be." I was already asking that question before the Lumity stuff, which went ahead and confirmed my suspicion. This episode is the happiest any piece of media has made me in like 2 years. It pushes the development for our main trio so far and manages to give us so many hilarious, delightful moments with the best character of the show in the span of 22 minutes. It goes ahead and gives us the first LGBTQ main character pairing in a Disney property during a Hootie episode. LGBTQ scholars in the future will be citing the episode entitled Knock Knock Knocking on Hootie's Door. Do you realize how ecstatic this makes me as the internet's #1 Hootie stan? I have invested so much love into this character over the past few months, and I got paid dividends for it thanks to this episode. It stays so true to his character by portraying him as someone who often screws up, but really means well and wants to be helpful. Thus having him help in unconventional ways that surprisingly work out extremely well for everyone at the end. Thus pushing everyone's character arcs forward, including his own. It really is the best episode of The Owl House and one of my favorite episodes of any cartoon ever. I can't even begin to quantify how much I love it for so many reasons.
Yeah, I got nothing else to add. Booty is bae, and one of the greatest gifts to mankind. It's no wonder that a character this great is the name of the show that is so spectacular. Owl House Season 1 was already one of my favorite shows in recent memory, and it was already in the upper echelon of cartoons that I adore. But the way Season 2 is presented at the moment, the Owl House might not only live alongside Gravity Falls, but surpass it. And I mean, no cartoon is going to top Avatar, nothing can. But a crab-obsessed lunatic once told me something about how something being the best and something being your favorite are two different things. Gravity Falls is my favorite cartoon, but the Owl House is poised to topple it, making it, in my eyes, better than anything else in the animation industry of the television variety. And it goes quite a bit beyond television, because let's face it, the Owl House is better than most, no, all the new Disney Plus shows being released. It's better than all of Disney's modern movies, and it's better than the recent Pixar lineup. But you know, I'm not meaning to be mean to Pixar's recent movies. I just want to be mean to the giant corporate conglomerate as much as I want.
I was going to say that I probably wouldn't personally go that far in terms of praising this show, but the more I think about it, with the exception of those last 4 Clone Wars episodes, yeah, the Owl House is probably my favorite thing to come out of Disney since Moana. I mean, my YouTube profile picture is Tamatoa, and my current Twitter profile picture is Hootie, so what does that tell you? I know we're only halfway through the season, so it'd be kind of weird to give it a score right now, but if you're really curious, first half gets a 9 out of 10. Sometimes it does feel like there's not enough room to breathe between all these big reveals and character development moments, but that's the only problem I have with Season 2 so far, and I sincerely doubt it's the fault of the creators. I get the feeling they had a suspicion that Season 3 was going to be shortened and started cramming all this stuff into Season 2 to compensate. Well, luckily for them, Season 2 is still amazing. I love it. You should watch this show. Holy shit, it is so good. Also, I know I'm going to get a ton of comments about it, so Season 1 of Amphibia is a 6 out of 10, Season 2 is an 8 out of 10. I like the show, I'll watch Season 3, it's pretty good too, even though Season 1 is just kind of okay. Anyway, Patrick, you ready for the next video to be the Clone Wars Season 1 review?
Oh boy, I can't wait to record the Season 1 retrospective on the Clone Wars, which is definitely being written and recorded at this current moment in time. And as such, nothing in the video will feel out of date in terms of references.
Man, acknowledging that something in our upcoming video is out of date in a previous video that not all the people who watch that new video are going to watch is so much easier than just taking out the out of date parts in the upcoming video. We're so good at our jobs. I'll probably just put a blurb of text on screen whenever we talk about how much we want to see Cad Bane in more Disney Star Wars things. It'll say, shout out to the homies who watched the Bad Batch Monsters at Work Owl House video who get the in-joke. Be sure to comment the secret message from that video in order to let people know you got the in-joke. Okay, so what should the in-joke be that the people should comment on the Clone Wars Season 1 video when it comes out?
I got it. Hootie would absolutely destroy Cad Bane in a shootout because Hootie is the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy. And subscribe to Goop videos because he did a good job editing this.
Okay, good. Everybody comment that on the Clone Wars Season 1 video when it comes out later this month. The look on the people who didn't watch this video's face will be epic. And then maybe at the end of the month I'll talk about Shrek the Musical, whatever, who cares. Good night, Tri-State Area.
Hunter, we need more Titan's blood, Hunter. We need to open the door to the monster world, Hunter.
Exactly.